Hi all, welcome back to Beanie's Hobbies. In this video I'm going to be going through slicing and creating files ready for 3D printing. Been requested this by another YouTube user, so I thought I'd just go ahead and give you a quick noob's tutorial on it, on how to do it. It really isn't that difficult. So guys, sit back, enjoy, and I hope you actually learned something from this. Right, first of all, bear with me, I haven't actually used this before, so what we need to do first is we need to open up your browser and do a Google search for Cura. Whoop, I can't spell. Cura download. Okay, so you want to go to ultimaker.com and you need to download Ultimaker Cura 4.4.1. okay, I'm not going to download this because I've already got it installed, so I think you guys are more than capable of downloading a program, so yeah, go ahead, download that. Okay, so once you've got that downloaded, then go ahead and install it. Okay, and I shall then show you, probably should have loaded this up beforehand because it is quite slow to load up. So yeah, let's just wait for this together to load up. And there we go. Right, you're not going to be greeted with this screen to start off with when you're first setting up. I will quickly can show you what screen you're going to be greeted with. Now you're going to be greeted with this screen where you need to add your printer. Right, if you want to, you can add a network printer if your printer allows it. Wouldn't recommend this option. Only problem with this option is if you're running Windows like I am and it decides to do a Windows update and your computer wants to restart, your printer's then going to end up losing communication with your computer and your print's going to stop, so you're going to end up losing it. So I wouldn't recommend you guys doing that. What I'd recommend you doing is to add a non-network printer. So as soon as you click on that, you're going to be greeted with a big, huge list of all the different makes of printers. Now what I like about Cura is that mostly all the printers that you'd use are actually on here. So for instance, for me, I'm a bit of a Creality guy, so I'm going to open up Creality, and as I've just had a new printer delivered, which is the CR10S, I will click that, and then I'll click Add. Okay, and then you're going to be greeted with the machine settings. Everything's already prepared for you. You don't actually need to touch any of this. Okay, this is all set up for you by Cura, so you don't need to actually change a thing. Okay, so you just need to next that. And as you see, when I've got quite a large list, my printer is already added in here twice, because this is the second time I've had to do this, because the first time it crashed. So there we go. You want to close. Now as you can see at the top here, you've got your printer selected, your Creality CR10S, and if I wanted to, I could change it to one of my other printers that I've got listed, but obviously I don't need to do that because we're working on this one. Right, what you're going to need to do next is obviously go and get yourself a file to print. So best place to get them from is Thingiverse. Now this is a free website. All the models on here are free to download, but they are all owned by individuals. So no selling them, people. That's not fair. Okay, so you know, use it with a little bit of respect. So the thing I'm working on at the moment is an Iron Man bust. I've just printed one, and I'm going to print some more because hey, I love Iron Man. Okay, so these, and then obviously once you've done your search, you're going to be greeted with all the files you could possibly want. So it's just a matter of going through and seeing what you fancy. Well, I've just done a Mark 50, so we could go for, let's say a Mark 85. Okay, now there's going to be a lot of files in this, as you can see up by the title. This is an Iron Man Mark 85 bust plus wearable helmet. Alright, so this is going to be, there's going to be a lot of files in here. So we just click on the Files tab, wait 3 hours while this website loads because it is incredibly slow at the moment. As you can see, they are working on some performance issues. Hopefully it'll be resolved soon, but you can't complain because everything on here is free. When it finally does decide to load up, really? Oh my god. Should have been a little bit more prepared for this, I suppose. I haven't actually used this screen recording stuff before, so I ain't got a clue. Yeah, still thinking about it. There we go. Right, now these are all the files that are included. So once you're happy with what you've got, you can go ahead and read the comments. I'm not going to click that because then we'll have to wait another half an hour. But you can read all the comments of what people have downloaded and printed and what they think of it and if there's any issues with it. Once you're happy, all you need to do is pop at the top here and obviously download all your files. Okay, so once you've downloaded your files, they're obviously all going to go into your download folder. As you can see, I've already downloaded some. So all you're going to need to do is extract or unzip the files. Okay, so you can ready to use them. So once you've actually unzipped your files, you need to put them somewhere where you know where they are. I mean, you see down here, I've made a folder with all my prints, and then subfolders with more of them in. And I've got quite a few on here. So once you've unzipped them, move them to you know where they are, you're then ready to open up your file. So you need to click on your folder, and then you need to pick, not that one because that was another one, let's say this one. Okay, alright. You could check all the images and to see the images of the files. And you go into the files, but I've already been through these and modified the ones, took out the ones that I don't want because there was lots in here, but these are the ones that are left that I actually need to print the bust. Right, when you know which file you want to go for, so we need to start off, we can start off at the base. Open. Okay, there we go. And this is the actual part of the file. This is the actual model that we're going to be printing. I'll just have a quick look around it. Obviously the areas you can see here in red, obviously don't need to worry about the bottom because that's on the build plate. But the areas you can see here are in red, they're overhangs. Now they're the parts that might give you problems when you come to print. Not all of them will. These sort of angles here, they'll print just fine. But looking around this model, overhang wise, I really can't see any problem at all. Right, now the next option is, this is far too small for my liking, so we're going to highlight the model and we're going to come over here on the left. Now the first tab is move, so you can hold your left click down, hold your left mouse button down, and you can move it around the build plate. Right, the second one down is scale. Now at the minute this is set to 100%. And obviously this is not big enough for me, so let's go in and put 200%. It's okay, we've just doubled the size of the model. So now it looks considerably larger. Obviously keep in mind, if you've done this 200%, you're going to then need to do every single other part 200%. One more note when you're into doing the scaling, you're best to have uniform scaling ticked, because if you haven't got uniform scaling ticked, when you adjust the X, which is obviously the width, you're going to get 200 width where everything else is going to stay exactly the same, so it's going to look odd. So just tick your uniform scaling and that'll then scale it all to size together. Okay, so your next button down here is going to be your rotate options. I don't want to rotate this model, I want to print it as it is on its base. Some models, which I'll go into shortly, I'll try and find another one for you guys, but as it is at the moment, I don't want to change any of these. But if you did want to rotate it, obviously you just need to pick your axis that you do want to rotate and hold your left mouse button down and rotate it. Okay, your next button down is going to be mirroring. Now mirroring is helpful if you've got, say, a helmet, one half of a helmet. You could then mirror the other half of the helmet to match. It's not something I'm going to need to do today. Obviously this one is just blocking for doing your blocks for support. Obviously I don't use those because I use what's already built into the program itself. Now, next job, you need to prepare the file ready for slicing. So these are now your printer settings. Okay, this is going to be the standard layout that you will see. So the top bar will adjust the quality of your print. At the moment it's set to sort of dynamic quality. Your next one down is going to be your infill. Now, higher the number of infill, the stronger your print will be, but it will also use a lot more filament. Now for something like this, which is a bust, which is not going to be moved, touched, played with or anything like that, you don't need massive amount of infill. Now obviously you can't put 0 because then it won't print, it'll just all fall apart. So 20% infill would be absolutely fine. Your next one down is going to be support. Now, you're best not to tick this box in this section because it's going to really generate some funky supports all over the place. It's fine for me on a model like this because I don't actually need supports. Now, your bottom tab is obviously adhesion tab. Now, you always want to have your adhesion selected because that will then print another layer around the bottom of your model which will help it stick to the build plate. Obviously something this size does not necessarily going to need extra adhesion because it's already quite large. Anyway, but if you're doing something a bit more detailed, you'd need to go into custom setup. Let me just close these tabs up so I can actually start from the beginning. Right, so up here you can adjust your quality. Like I said before, 0.16mm dynamic quality. You can go up to super fine, standard. I mean, I'd recommend standard quality if you're just doing everyday sort of prints, but for something like this from a bust, I want them a little bit better quality, so I'd always pick dynamic quality. You don't need to worry about that. Right, so that's the quality. Shell, this is all preset for you. I wouldn't adjust any of these figures. I would leave them completely standard as they are. We've already discussed the infill for your percentage. Obviously, as I say, bigger percentage, more infill you get, better strength, but you will use more filament. But then you can actually change your infill pattern. At the minute you can see it's set to cubic, which is sort of middle of the range. Give it a little bit of strength without using too much filament. And then you could do something like grid, which is not going to be as strong, and that'll use even less filament. And if you go down to, I can't even pronounce that word, octet, it's going to weave it in such a way it'll be quite strong, but obviously it'll still use, you know, a fair bit more filament. Obviously, if you do get in a model with this program, you do make a mistake, you've always got the fix button. Just push that and that'll reset it back to what Cura recommends you use. Okay, now you've got down to material. Now, because I'm printing with PLA, I know full well the temperature range for PLA is between 190 and 220 degrees. You'll never forget this because it's always printed on the label of each roll of filament you get. Obviously, if you're using ABS, the temperatures are going to be a lot hotter. I don't get involved with ABS because I print it in a large open garage, which is quite cold, and that will suffer from warping and adhesion problems, so I never use ABS. I always use PLA or PLA+. So in here you're going to want to set your temperature. Print temperature, I always 200 degrees unless I'm printing with something like wood filament where the temperature needs to be lower, around about 190. Build plate temperature, for PLA you don't actually need to have a heated bed, but I would recommend you always set your build plate temperature when printing PLA to around 60 degrees to help it to stick. Okay. Now your speed is already preset. You can tweak it slightly, but higher the speed, less quality you're going to get. So you're best to leave that at recommended settings. You don't need to worry about travel. Cooling already preset for you. That will just cool the model down once everything's finished. Now these are the two important ones. Okay, you've got your support and your build plate adhesion. Now with your support option here, on this model we're not really going to need any support. Okay, so this is probably not the best one to demonstrate it on, but what you'd want to do is obviously you want to click support. Now you've got two options in here. You've got everywhere. Now everywhere means it will print support literally everywhere on the model, on the build plate. It's okay, but when you're printing it everywhere it can be tricky to get off your model without breaking it or leaving, you know, you will be able to see where it is, and you'll also have to do a lot more finishing work at the end. But sometimes that is the only option available to you when you're doing tricky prints. Now the other option, the one that I prefer, is touching build plate. Now with touching build plate it will only support parts that will be touching the build plate, so it won't print on your models itself. It will generate support only touching the build plate, so it will print from the build plate up to where it needs to support. Okay, that is the one that I would recommend. Now your overhang angle, you can clearly see here on the screen a value of 0%. All overhangs are supported. 90% will not provide any support. mean, I always leave that preset at 51 degrees, and it's never let me down. Okay, this is very simple. It's quite straightforward, nothing to worry about. Right, now build plate adhesion. Okay, there are several options. Now, a skirt is just going to draw a line around the outside of your print, which is about as much use as nothing. You're going to want to pick brim or raft. Okay, now brim will draw a line, well, draw several lines that are attached to the base of your model. Okay, it's always the best one to go for if you're doing the smaller prints, because it will help your model stick to your build plate, and there's a lot less tidied up to do at the end, because you can just run your craft knife around the edge and that'll just come straight off. Now raft is going to print like a platform on the bottom of your print bed before it will then print the model on top of it. Okay, there's a lot better chance of it, your model sticking to the build plate, but you're going to have a lot more tidying up to do at the end, and it's going to use a lot more filament. Okay, so I always recommend brim. Obviously you'll get, again, depending on what you're printing. If you're printing something like this, brim will be perfect. Anything that's a bit more sort of detailed, you're going to want to go for raft to make sure it doesn't come unstuck off the bed. I've never had a problem with PLA coming off the bed. I've always had problems with ABS, hence the reason I don't get involved with that anymore. It's just too much of a pain in the bottom for me. And obviously dual extrusion, I haven't got a machine that runs with 2 extruders as of yet. That's something I'm looking to get later on down the line. Creality have just released a new version of that, so that's something that I might get a bit later on to share with you guys, but not yet. Okay, so that's about it really for the settings that we've ran through from here. So all you're going to need to do next is you're going to click slice. Okay, now the program will run through, slice it all together. Obviously, bigger the model, more intricate the model, longer it will take to slice. It might get so far and stop and you think, oh, it's crashed. It hasn't. It's just thinking there's a lot of information there for it to process. And also a lot depends on how quick your computer is. My computer is not particularly quick, so it always takes a while. So there we go. Once it's finished slicing, the thing, these are not precise, guys. Don't rely on this 100%. It's just giving you a rough guideline. But to print this one part, it's going to take 1 day, 8 hours and 30 minutes. It's going to use a grand total of 213 grams of filament, which works out at about 71.52 meters. So rough guidelines. Rough, very rough. This is nowhere near precise. I've found that out many a times. Anyway, once you're happy with that, you want to save to file. Now guys, you want to put these somewhere where you know they are. Okay, so obviously I'm going to put it back into the folder where I've just got the original file from, so I know where it is. Then once it's saved, it's saved. Another word of advice: if you've just gone and done what I've done and changed the size of this model, and you have a memory like a goldfish, because I have, you need to remember the percentage you've put down, because obviously there's more parts to this model. And if you've gone and printed one part and think, oh, what percentage do I just set that at, and then you're going to beat the model. So 200% is what I've just set this at. Write it down if you need to, or if you've got a good memory, then problem solved. You aren't like me. So yeah, remember that figure. Then obviously once your file is saved, it's then saved. Now, the other thing with this program, which is quite handy, you do plan on printing with something else that isn't PLA, or you want to change your nozzle size, this is the place to do it. You can get various sizes of nozzles, as you can see here. I personally always use a 0.4. If you're doing really rough draft sort of work and you're not worried about the quality, you can go up to a 0.8. It will obviously print a hell of a lot quicker, but like I say, you're going to lose all the quality. So you've got your 0.4 nozzle. Now you've got your material up the front, up the top here. I mean, you don't need to worry about any of these. What you want to worry about is the generics. So in here, if I did want to print with, like, say for instance, oh God, ABS, you then click ABS. I wish that would stop popping up because I don't really want that. And that'll then, obviously, when you then come back into this, it would have then changed all the heat bed settings for you. Now, obviously, this temperature here is a rough guideline, not hot enough, I'm telling you now. And the same with the build plate, the same with the bed temperature. That's not hot enough either. but it does help you out to a certain degree of setting a few things up for you just to get you on your way. And obviously change the model to a pretty green rather than a yellow. Let me just put this back to PLA or I'll forget. Anyway, so what, go away, there we go. So once you've got your file sliced, it's then going to be a matter of getting your SD card or your micro SD card out of your printer, lugging it into your computer like so, and as you can see, these are some files that I've been working on from a YouTube channel. Now you'll need to go back down to where you just put your print. So obviously mine was in the 3D prints, bursts, and I can't remember which one I was working on. Right, you're going to know about tell the difference between the files you've been working on and the files you haven't been working on, because they would have changed to blue and you would have the Cura symbol. Okay, so now all you need to do with this file, drag and drop it onto the root of your SD card. Don't put it in a folder, put it in the root of the card. Okay, because if you put it in a folder, some printers won't find it. Oh, and one more word of advice. If you have got a Creality CR10S Pro, rubbish, if your title here is too long, it won't find it. I don't know why, so you'll have to go in here and just edit it to something a little bit smaller so you know what it is, especially if you've got multiple files on the same disk, or the same card, sorry. So yeah guys, that's about it. Obviously once you've then, that's your file prepared, plop it in your printer and you are then sort of good to go. I mean, there are several more settings on Cura that we can go through. I mean, obviously right click on your model, you can then you know, if you want to center your model, you want to delete it, hell, you can even multiply this thing if you want to. Now, let's have 3 of them. Yep, so there we go, we now have 4. So that's multiply. Right, I want to find something a little bit more trickier to print. Let's have a look. Torso, I reckon, will be a bit interesting. Iron Man torso is always a bit of a sort of funny shape. Now here we go. So this is a good example. I would not print this way up personally, but that's down to you. Let's just make it a bit bigger. It's more like it. Because for one, you're going to have problems with adhesion, because anything that's touching the build plate is this little tiny edge there, and you've got a lot of overhangs. So this is where the rotation tool comes in handy. Now obviously your blue line is left to right, your green line is up and down, no, that's side to side, sorry, and your red one is front to back. So what we want to do is grab a red one, drop it down, and then look underneath, and I can then see when I go to put in my supports, this whole area there would then be supported. I could flip it on its front, but I obviously don't want any of the supports getting attached to the front portion of this, because it's going to make a mess. So along that area for me would be absolutely fine. Touching build plate supports on that would be perfect, because it would just print from the build plate up to the back of the model and hold it straight in place where I want it. So yeah guys, I hope you found this of a little bit of interest. If there's anything else you do want to know, you just let me know, just give me a shout. I can always upload more for you now I've got the hang of how to use this program. Anyway, take care peeps, and I'll see you in the next one.